Hi there, hello, salut, bonjour. I hope you're doing very well from wherever you're watching at this moment. As always, it's a unique privilege for me to connect with you as we try to make sense of events happening across the globe, specifically the case of Cameroon, where we shine a spotlight on the post-electoral crisis that is taking the country by storm. And we've seen for ourselves that this situation is continuously getting worrisome. And as usual, I'm grateful and thankful for all of you continuously supporting this platform, subscribing if you haven't done so, sharing the content to your circles, liking the content if you do like it, and leaving a comment so we know what is on your mind as you watch. And as you connect, please do three things as we always tell you at the beginning. First thing is, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. So many of you are watching the content. It helps us to grow and continue to do the work that we do. If you have to comment, please do so. We like to hear from you. It's important. All voices are accepted. There are no taboo subjects, and we continue. As long as it's respectful, you're more than welcome. And if you like the content, please hit that like button. It helps to show YouTube that they can recommend to other people. And of course, many thanks to those that have left super thanks. It's financial contribution, and we just can't say thank you enough because it's hard for people we understand out there, and we don't expect sometimes, but we see that, and it really goes a long way. So thank you so much for your continuous support. Now let's get down to the business of the day. And as usual, we start with the factual updates right off the top. We do know that Ghost Town is in full force in Cameroon. We are in day 2, almost wrapping up. And Issa Tchiroma Bakary had come out already earlier on in a second video here where he's thanking everyone for their continuous commitment and those that were able to observe the ghost town, and telling the people that it's a huge success and he's so proud to be the people's president. And he also went ahead to outline the fact that he's also grateful for those members of the opposition party that have seen the light, or some members of parliament that have also started showing support to the movement. As we did mention to you that a PCR and parliamentarian had boycotted the parliamentary session. There is a letter circulating that she may have resigned from the party, but we still need to confirm that. And as you know, this tension across the country, and political parties have had moments to question their integrity. And we also know that in the SDF party, so many people are calling for the resignation of Joshua Osi, who is their leader. So the tensions continue to brew because the people are questioning their leadership. All of them are looking themselves and asking questions that how could Issa Tchiroma Bakary, who used to work with the regime, resign from the regime, few months after come out and take the lead? And yet, even when the people are respecting the ghost towns or those that went out to protest when he called for a protest, all of these things are showing that he has some legitimate grounds and he controls the terrain and the people are listening to his voice. Therefore, there's a new leader in town, because how would you explain that Issa Tchiroma Bakary came from the back? Nobody was talking about him. Everybody was focusing on Professor Maurice Kamto as the main challenger. And that is why even the regime that have always been very careful in crafting out elections were unable to see Issa Tchiroma Bakary come out from the back. And some political analysts in Cameroon are surprised. They are wondering what's going on. How come the regime that has been so careful in doing so many things over the years, the decades, meticulously silencing all dissenting voices, have been unable to shut down Issa Tchiroma Bakary? And although there have been rumors that, he escaped and was getting to Nigeria and then he was arrested and then brought back. But then when you see in this video, he's physically present, he's composed, he's calm, he addresses the people firmly like a leader would do, very poised and grateful for the work that is being done on the field, and giving some assurances that he will continue to fight and tell the people that this is the moment that cannot escape them.
Je suis fier d'être le président d'un peuple qui est capable de se tenir debout, vent debout, droit dans ses bottes, pour relever tous les défis. Ni l'intimidation, ni les arrestations ne peuvent avoir raison de notre détermination.
And those words are very comforting to some of the business owners, especially those that have shops, who have decided to lock their shops around the country. And we talk about a main incident today in Douala, where you could see this woman defying the orders of the SDO. She has now become the hero, the face of this ghost town. You could see in the video how she is defiant and doesn't want to yield because, again, in simple translation, the SDO is asking her to open her shop and she's saying she doesn't want to open it. The DO and his team say, well, the DO wants to buy stuff. Why is she not opening? She says, well, if I open and sell to you, Who's going to buy next because the streets are empty? There are no more customers. I just came here to open my shop to hang out. So if somebody comes around and buys something, I could get something to eat. And she was clear in saying that if I open my shop and overnight the vigilante groups come and burn it, would you be there to help me? And the DO was so angered because to him, this woman was defying his orders. So the SDO said, well, since you're not going to open your shop today, you're going to not open it for the next month. It will be sealed. And he gave instructions for it to be sealed. And we could tell that at that moment there was a bump in the camera. And these are the situations, because even the people that are filming, as we keep telling you, that they are doing so in hiding. The way you see some of these videos, yes, at the beginning it looks okay. At some point you see the camera disappears, because you don't see the end of the story to know what actually happens, because again, people are being intimidated across the board. And you could see her reaction in the end. She was perplexed that this doesn't look like commerce, it's more like coercion. Because you think about it for a moment. If the government in place, if the regime in place is more concerned about the vibrancy of the economy, what is 1, 2, 3 days going to do compared to 1 month? You want to seal somebody's shop for 1 month, and yet the ghost town was caught only for 3 days. It shows that the regime in place is more concerned about repression. It's very arrogant, very repressive. They're not thinking about the economy. Because if they were really thinking about the economy, how can you equate 1 month to 3 days? You're punishing this person. You think that you're punishing them because you don't want them to survive? The money that the tax man collects from this woman is the money that pays your salary. And you don't sit and think about that for a moment. That just shows you the arrogance in the country. Because why would you seal the shop of a fellow Cameroonian? Because she decided not to open her shop. There is no law that says she must sell to you. There is no law that says she must do business with you. I mean, think about it just from a simple, customer relations perspective. If you call any company anywhere in the world in functioning democracies, and you threaten anybody on the phone, or you even as much as come into a business premises and threaten someone, even in a bar where you're buying drinks to drink, they can refuse to sell to you. They have all kinds of reasons. You know, a business owner has the authority to tell you they don't want to sell to you. What is going on in this country where you force someone to sell to you and you have to coerce them to open their shop? There are people that may be sick. There are people that may be bereaved, may have lost loved ones because of this protests and killings and stuff and arrest. There are people that are in different challenging situations. There are people that may be in the villages burying some loved one and they are unable to open their shops. So you're going to seal it and consider them to be supporters of Issa Tchiroma Bakary. The people have said it clear. This is not about Issa Tchiroma Bakary. This is about the future of the country. Making a new turn and making some meaningful change for the future. Never have we seen this kind of mobilization where you see people in uniforms. And again, colonial mentality, as we continue to put it, because that is exactly what it is. It's colonial mentality. Because it seems like those that come out of this National School of Administration and Magistracy called ENAM in Cameroon, which is a topic for another day, they don't really understand what it means to be at the service of the people. It's always high-handed approach. At a time when the country needs some kind of reconciliation, some kind of appeasement, you know, you see people only adding fuel to the fire. And that is so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch that in the 21st century, in 2025, there is no law that stops this woman from not opening her shop. There's no law that forbids this woman from doing what she's doing. But yet an individual is abusing their office and authority in broad daylight. And as you will see, it's impunity. It will go unpunished, unnoticed. Whereas the law is clear. If somebody stops your business from functioning, you can take them to court and they will have to pay you damages, because for those days that your shop is not going to be open because you have to run up and down to go and follow up for a crime you did not commit, for nothing you did. And I must tell you, it's very hard for us to just gloss over these issues, to just report them to you as updates without giving the context. Because like we always tell you, we can give you the what, the where, the who, the how, but we must tell you the why. And that is important. And that constitutes the premise of what we do here. And I understand that people would like to see that we just state the facts and move over. But that is not what we are meant to do if we really want to have a civic discourse in public. You have to provide the context, because that helps people to understand why the things are the way they are. Because that helps provide some context. Yes, every country may have their rules, their laws and everything, and that is why it's important for somebody to know that there is no law in Cameroon that states that a divisional officer can come and seal your shop because you choose not to open it. Yes, and that would mean that they are also forgetting that you're innocent until proven guilty for whatever intention that they have in mind. And there is no reason, there is no order, there is no injunction, there's nothing, there's no court order that says they have to seal your shop. Again, that just tells you that it's a machine that has gone rogue. And it's hard for us to undermine some of these things because the world is watching. And therefore, it goes to comfort some independent observers and human rights activists who have called the regime in Yaoundé a dictatorial regime that is full of authoritarian tactics and trying to silence all kinds of dissent and opposition. And that brings us to the second update, which comes from the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. There's a statement issued, which is more or less, first of all, we saw a tweet coming from the chair of that committee, calling the Biya regime a regime that is oppressing its opposition, and is calling on a review of the relationships between the U.S. and Cameroon. And this is not good for the country. And I know people in Yaoundé will be quick on their feet to condemn everybody abroad, to say, how dare they come and tell us what to do in the country. They should focus on their issues over there we don't care about, and so on. You see some of these videos, which is unfortunate. It's just pure propaganda, because these are the same people we say they are your lenders. Because we do know that as we speak, the government of Cameroon is looking for money. You know, the parliamentary session and the Senate session that is underway is also going to examine the budget. They are looking for money. And that is exactly why sometimes they distract you with all this political, quagmire, whatever is going on, while the real thing is happening at the back end. Because the ministers in charge of finance and the economy and stuff, they're actually working behind the scenes trying to secure funds. Because the country is heavily indebted. It's heavily indebted with all the resources that we have. It's heavily indebted because there's been gross mismanagement of public funds at every level. One even begins to wonder what kind of government or economy that someone like Issa Tchiroma Bakary would inherit should he get to it today. Because the economy is not really thriving, and every sector is not functioning at its best, even just by minimum standards, even just average. And that is why this session is important. Cameroonians need to pay attention as to when they talk about the budget of the country, where the money is going. It's not uncommon, because you do know that even he himself, Paul Biya, once called his own ministers les bandits à col blanc, white-collar thieves, in his own words. These are historical facts, because at some point when the corruption in the country and the embezzlement of public funds was at its peak, the president's attention was called to the matter, and he said, où sont les preuves? And guess what? Later on, it became so alarming he himself could not even put his head up. And that's where you saw Operation Sparrowhawk, Operation Epervier, and so on and so forth. And he has a full cabinet in jail. He had to put a full cabinet in jail in different capacities, not in one go, but in different capacities. There's a former prime minister that's in jail. There's a former minister of territorial administration in jail. There's many ministers of defense in jail. There's so many ministers in different capacities in jail for embezzlement. Huge sums of money that could have transformed so many sectors in Cameroon. And that is why the country is so indebted. And therefore, we're saying that at a time when the political crisis in the country is heightening up, and you have lenders who are supposed to be foreign partners looking and asking themselves what's going on in Cameroon, and you see the reticence in congratulating messages, it just goes to tell you that the regime in Yaoundé should exercise some humility. They should understand that if they were not going out there to constantly borrow money, some of these countries will not have a say in the affairs of their country. Because that's what it is. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So they need to be humble enough, because it's hard for a country that does not have its own self-sufficiency in all areas, in all sectors. You depend on foreign technology. Even the security system in Cameroon is provided by a foreign country. There was a point where even the ID card, the national identification card, was produced by a French company outside of Cameroon. Because again, everything is being some sort of deified in Cameroon. Basic things that you go anywhere in the world, it's commonplace, common knowledge. In Cameroon, it's some sort of a big deal. You know, when it's happening in Cameroon, they will give attributions to the head of state. Oh, we thank the head of state for this. We thank the head of state for that. We thank the head of state for this. And yet you don't see that head of state anywhere. You only see his pictures. And you only hear that he's giving his signature. You only hear of high instructions. And that is what the opposition is decrying. And all the observers are saying, if he was present and doing his job and therefore give the directives, even the communication strategy is not good in a time of crisis. There is no form of crisis communication. Because everyone is going around saying anything they want to say, doing what they're doing, and yet those that are managing the affairs of the state are out dishing letters of invitation for people to come for an oath-taking ceremony on the 6th of November. And that will mark exactly 43 years because it will take you to 6th of November 1982. And that is how he came to office. And it may just be symbolic that it's going to be 6th of November that the National Assembly intends to swear in the proclaimed candidate by the Constitutional Council in the person of Paul Biya. And that is another update for you. And as you know, these are not happy times in Cameroon because there are people that are mourning the loss of loved ones. There are those that are struggling to know where their children were taken to in terms of those that were arrested and taken to the military tribunal in Yaoundé. There are others calling for the immediate release of those that were arrested arbitrarily. They've been taken before the military tribunal. You have the Anise Ekane, the Jokam Chameni, the Professor Bo, you know. You have the Patrick Mvoum, you have the Fabrice Lena, you have Florence Ticho, and many others, because some families are still struggling to identify. You have this video showing at least 100 young people out in the rain, you know, being tortured at a gendarmerie base because they were arrested on the streets due to the protests. And all of these things don't sit well with the observers that are looking at the fact that everyone in Yaoundé is trying to go about their day, showing that it's business as usual. They are not observing any ghost town, and therefore they are inviting folks to come for the planning of the oath-taking ceremony, call it inauguration, on the 6th of November. And that is something that obviously doesn't sit well with some members of the civil society. And we can update you that Kah Walla for StandUpForCameroon, which is an important movement in the civic society forum in Cameroon, she has been able to mobilize enough people to start observing Friday as a day of mourning where they wear black to show that they are mourning those that have lost their lives throughout all the crises in Cameroon. And this time around, they've chosen Thursday to do a public mass, and they're calling for everyone to come out, and they're doing it in Douala. They're organizing a public mass to mourn those that have lost their lives during the different crises that have taken place in Cameroon, but most especially this post-electoral crisis. And those are very powerful acts of solidarity, and people are going to respond to it. And it's supposed to be the same day when there's going to be an oath-taking ceremony in place in Yaoundé. And that goes to tell you that the people are taking back their power. And that is a powerful call because it touches the soul of the nation. It touches the core of humanity. When you see mothers have to come together to organize a public mass, you know, in honor of those that have lost their lives and families that are mourning. While the people in Yaoundé may probably be celebrating on that same day, toasting to champagne for the victory of the candidate who has been inaugurated. And even though some people are expecting to hear a speech, beautiful speech, you know, people will be watching, hoping to listen and see if the president has some stamina. That is what Cameroon has become. People watch the president speak only to find out if he's going to falter, is he going to make a mistake? You know, let's look, is he walking straight? Is it like, that is what Cameroon has become, which is very sad. When elsewhere you expect the president to be on the ground, hit the ground running, get things done, you know, give directives, come here, be on the job, taking moves. No. In Cameroon, the debate will be, oh, was he able to read the speech from start to finish? Did he raise his hand to wave? Was he actually working? Is he the person governing? Is he doing it? That is exactly the distraction we're talking about. And that is why some observers were very upset, you know, earlier on this year, when it took the French ambassador to go to the presidency, a Unity Palace, and have an audience with the head of state. And then it was filmed and captured and edited and tailored and crafted and then presented to the public. And you could hear him say in an interview, you know, He met the president. He's still very aware of affairs and issues affecting the world. He was strong. A firm handshake. People started talking about a firm handshake. Things that have nothing to do with the ability of the president of the republic to be out there on the field on a daily basis, doing the work, being seen to do the work for the people that elected him in office for 7 more years. It took the French ambassador to come and fetch the Cameroonian president out of wherever space he was, because the people had been asking, où est le président? Où est le chef de l'État? And again, you still have ministers that came out and said, le chef de l'État est partout, il est omnipotent. And this is where I'm thinking that Issa Tchiroma Bakary, sometimes when he watches those clips where he used to say those things, I'm sure he's just shaking his head, in disbelief. And those are some of the things that those who were skeptical about Issa Tchiroma Bakary had to say. And I know that the regime in Yaoundé has sent their surrogates to use all kinds of clips to discredit him. But unfortunately for them, the people are telling it as it is. They are clear. This victory that they are claiming has nothing to do with Issa Tchiroma Bakary. He's just what we call the messenger or the figurehead. The people are saying that they want change and they are going to use Issa Tchiroma Bakary to get the change. Because, of course, democracy calls that you need a leader. And if a leader is listening to you, in as much as he had a questionable past, you don't care. You want the leader to do the job. And he's doing the job and he's delivering above par because he's going through the heat like everyone else right now. He's facing the same terror, the same intimidation, the same repression. His people are being arrested, tortured, detained, family members, those around him shot, killed. That is enough to tell you that he's trying to stay the course, and which is good on him. And these daily updates continue to put the regime on edge. And they are not sleeping because they've multiplied so many meetings. As you can tell, we can report that there are meetings in Yaoundé. Those that are working in the transportation sector have been convened and summoned to come to Yaoundé for an important meeting. There's even a meeting taking place where the Minister of Territorial Administration had to send cameras out, send journalists out. So it's almost like in camera. Strategic meetings are taking place in camera everywhere because they are trying to mobilize security. Everywhere in Garwa, Marwa, Gaundere, parts of Douala, Bafang, Bafoussam, all the places that are considered strongholds of opposition, which were never even supposed to be the case. Because guess what? The same Marwa and Garwa and Gaundere, these are places that voted for the CPDM candidate in 2018. In fact, the president won the elections in 2018 based on almost 2 million votes coming from the north. The rest of the country constituted less than 500,000 votes. That's how it was. So it's funny that the tables have turned and now the people in the north are being, insulted and given all kinds of negative terms. You hear other Cameroonians giving them very nasty names, which I'm not going to repeat them because it's almost like making those names popular, because those are not things that you should ever say to a fellow Cameroonian. Everyone should love the country enough, have some pride in their nationality, have some pride in the country patriotism, be a lover of peace and democracy, what they call vivre ensemble, whatever it is. Those that speak in public always need to come with some humility, address the people as if you care, put the human being at the center of public service. That is one thing that, if this whole thing should teach us a lesson, is that the Cameroonian citizen, the human being in Cameroon, needs to be put at the center of public service. They need to be put at the center of public service. If only those that are in office can take a moment to sit and think that these are your brothers and sisters. Those in the military should sit and think that these are your brothers and sisters. You also live in some of these neighborhoods. You see the same poor roads. You face the same power outages. You face the same challenges to pay your rent. You face the same borrowing left and right at the different, what they call them, Alaji or Magida or whoever is selling at the boutique du quartier. You face the same everyday challenges. Those that go to fetch water at one public tap, you face the same challenges. Those that don't have consistent water supply in their homes, you face the same challenges. So why do you think that the people that are observing a ghost town, trying to send a strong message to the government to know that they are not happy, that immediate action needs to be taken, and that there has to be some form of reconciliation in the country, some form of justice and truth, because this election is contentious today because the people say their victory was stolen. And therefore, the Constitutional Council can still convene and decide to probe into the matter, because they always say based on new evidence that surfaces, a higher authority in the country has the mandate to dig and probe and go back and revisit those different procès-verbal. Because until they satisfy the people with the truth about these elections, it seems like the people will continue to obey Issa Tchiroma Bakary. And therefore, we're calling on Cameroonians home and abroad to continue to lend their voice to this movement. Do not sit on the sidelines. Support in any way you can. Not everybody must be the face, be at the forefront, but you need to do everything you can. All hands on deck. There are so many platforms out there. There's Project C with the veteran Eric Chinje and his team. You can join, you can support, you can anything, any walk of life that you belong to, you can use your own voice. If they need financial resources to help those that have been detained, you can follow up. There's a list of lawyers. You can contact them and be of help, because there are so many people that are suffering because of this crisis, and it's not going to end here. And you should remember that when 1992 went sideways, the regime took a bigger grip on power. And you should never forget that throughout history, all repressive regimes, when they succeed in regaining back the reins of power after a moment like this has passed, the repression that will come. The repression that will come. There will not be enough pages in the history books to write it. So Cameroonians need to understand that this is a moment. Because why do you think that there are DOs, SDOs going on the streets trying to ask people, even some mayors, threatening people left, right, center? It's because they know that their livelihood is being threatened. And they've been told to go and defend their fat checks, their salaries, their benefits, their privileges. Because all of them have bodyguards, drivers, cook, they live well, enjoy life, while the majority of the people suffer and toil every day for their daily bread under the scorching heat. No, you have to wake up and think about it for a second. There's a reason why people flock abroad, because they come to places where even if you're not part of government, even if you're not working in any big office, at least the fact that there are social services to take care of you while you're transitioning from one job to another, there are programs to help you go and educate yourself to get to another field. There are all these things. It helps people to focus on their life, and you can become anything. There's a dream that if you work hard, you can become anything you want to become. But can you say the same thing of the environment where you find yourself right now? No. And if the answer is no, then nobody needs to wake you up from sleep, because the time is now. Therefore, Cameroonians home and abroad, continue to do what you're doing and continue to stand up for Cameroon. Let me talk like Edith Kah Walla, and kudos to her. A big shout out to her team. They continue to do a work that is almost sacrificial, but yet one day it will pay off. Until the next one, stay vigilant, stay alert, stay informed, stay away from propaganda and all kinds of abusive language online. Just stay focused, stay the course. And one day we shall all look at this in the rearview mirror and say, what a fantastic job you all did to make sure that Cameroon takes its best place on the stage of the world. And the hashtag is Free Cameroon, and I like it. Big shout out to Rebecca Enonchong for that, and the team and those that are good at these hashtags. Free Cameroon, indeed. And on to the next one. May God bless Cameroon.